mom to Cody McKibben. What we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do. It is time to attack you again. That's the whole point of this adventure of life. This adventure of life. This adventure of life. This adventure of
Why am I not showing up here? Where's my camera? Come on. Seriously. What's happening? Well, hey guys. I don't know why I keep having trouble with this camera. What is happening? Yo. Oh, for goodness sake. It shows in the corner. There we go. Let me double check the audio. Gosh, why is this so... There's always something that goes wrong. God damn, motherfuckers. All right. Well, hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you guys are in the world. Started giving me a little heart palpitation there. I was like, damn it, even after all these preparations, double check everything, the camera's not gonna work. Well, I think we're streaming through a few Hero Foundry groups on Facebook, and we should be live on YouTube. I didn't schedule this in advance, so don't have anybody tuning in yet, but hopefully some of you will catch the replay. Well, I'll talk to you guys when someone shows up. Anyhow, this is my last chance to get it done when I said I'd get it done. So it's time. Today, it's been a few weeks. We have been reviewing the latest, greatest curriculum around the Warrior's Way, the Warrior Operating System, as I like to call it. So there's this book set behind me here there we go, called the Warrior Book, and a whole bunch of volumes that flesh out what the Warrior Operating System is. It's a personal life and business operating system that helps you plan and execute and build your empire, your kingdom. So I've been training under my coaches at Wake Up Warrior for 5 years plus, and I've earned my certified trainer status, and I've been taking several of my clients and coaching clients through this process, learning these frameworks and how to implement the system in their businesses, in their lives. So I'm working on developing now a new book, kind of in partnership with Garrett J. White, my coach and mentor. And chapter by chapter, we've been sharing these frameworks. So I think we've had a week or two hiatus. I wanted to rebroadcast. We're on Ch.4 for reasons. I think it's fitting to re-record this. But real quick, let me see if I can present my screen, my whiteboard here for a minute to catch us up. So we started with the pit of poverty. So if you look down here in this section, this is the darkness. And this pit, or as I sometimes refer to it, the abyss. This is a place where you can be emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And in the context of business and finances and earning your keep and developing your career, we call it the pit of poverty or the pit of scarcity, right? So we looked at the darkness of scarcity and poverty mindset, and how it leads to disconnection. You become desensitized. You start to devalue yourself, your soul. It often leads to separation and divorce with your spouse or with other people in general. Distancing. It leads men to destroy their families and ultimately to damn your life when you stay stuck in a rut, in the pit of poverty, or you stay in victim mentality, scarcity mindset, right? So we discussed what it's like to be down there in this dark pit, but it's also a necessary part of one's spiritual journey and the growth of maturation as a human being. Like, you cannot avoid dipping down into that pit, because our spiritual mission here on earth is to go from, to climb these peaks. And once you reach a peak, you cannot stay there forever. You got to come back down into the valley, and plot your way to the next peak. So from the pit, we go up, marching towards the peak of prosperity. So this is reaching towards success in any area of life. It could be body, being, balance, or business. But when you're reaching for a bigger, better life, when you're building your empire. And so what are the stages or the impacts that this journey has on you? You awaken to communion with others, connection. It activates the truth. You've got to embrace. You first have to be willing to embrace truth, and we're going to discuss this today. Kind of the cycles of how you kickstart yourself to get out of the pit and rise, or to make that climb, to claw your way out of a emotional pit. If you find yourself, like if you ever hit a trauma, especially, but you've got to activate the truth inside. You cannot get out of the pit through lies or hiding or pretending, right? And it begins to create acceleration in your soul, in your results you're creating in your day-to-day life. You accept your spouse and others around you, even with all their flaws. You begin to align your family and the parts of your life, towards a bigger, greater purpose. And, it leads towards ascension, to the next metaphorical level in the game of life. So if you want to level up your game, if you're here to evolve as a person, as a soul, stay tuned. Come along for this roller coaster ride as we explore the hero's journey and what this warrior operating system is, and how you can leverage and apply it to your life to build big things and to ascend to, the next level in your game. So Chapter 3, we looked at the principles of power. So how do you stay in power and not drop down into that poverty mindset or into scarcity stories, negativity, victimhood mindset? And the principles we looked at, there's 5. Just a quick review here. Potential, purpose, perspective, power, and production. So the principles we live by and drill into, each initiate on this path. It's the facts will set you free. You have to embrace the truth, no matter how ugly or embarrassing it may be. Number 2, prosperity is the path. So it's not so much a destination, but it's a commitment to living in this certain way, operating by certain principles, and employing certain frames and a operating system in your life for how you plan what you're chasing after and how you execute and get out there and produce real life concrete results. Otherwise you'll stay in fiction and fantasy and, but prosperity is a commitment, a devotion, a lifelong commitment to going on this cyclical hero's journey, really. And so it has its ups and its downs. At times you're going to feel like you're in the pit, you may experience financial poverty at different times in life. I mean, several of the most big time financially successful people I've ever met, they have built it all and lost it all. They've built empires and they've burned it all to the ground. Clients I've worked with, they've been multi-millionaires, and then somehow through happenstance or through their own mistakes, they've lost predominantly almost all of their financial assets, and had to restart the game all over again. So, I mean, it happens to the best of us, right? So, but you got to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and just get back on the path again. It's a path. Number 3, if you change your story, you change your life. And so the further we go down this path, this adventure ahead of us with the warrior operating system, the more we'll unpack that. How do you rewrite your story? The stories in your head, like the beliefs. A lot of them are limiting beliefs, right? That hold you back or empower you. So how do you get in there in the programming of your own mind and rewrite your stories, your beliefs, change your perspective and focus on the things that are going to get you what you actually want and move you forward and pull you, attract you, magnetize you towards that peak of prosperity. Number 4 is the principle of reverse engineered production. And this is something we have a daily game, a weekly game, monthly and quarterly to keep us on track, right? Hitting the targets along the pathway towards these milestones and targets that we say we're committed to. So you're either committed or you're kidding yourself, right? But if you're ruthlessly committed to hunting down radical results in your life, then the warrior operating system is going to equip you with the tools, the principles, and the mindsets and skill sets necessary to chase after that prosperity at the peak, whatever that looks like for you. These are the principles we live by. Number 5, finally, is the chaos of abundance. Surprisingly enough, once you actually break out of scarcity into that higher level, I'm going to call it stage 2, and there's stage 3 and 4 beyond that. But when you break out of financial scarcity, let's say, into financial abundance, I mean, suddenly there is a new layer of chaos. I mean, that's why I say there's different levels, quote unquote, of the game. And the rules sort of change a little bit. Some things are timeless. Certain principles and maxims will carry you through the whole game, but the way you orient yourself to the world around you changes. The more financial resource you have, the more options you have. And so that creates this chaos of abundance. Suddenly, if you build a business and you actually see some success, suddenly you're going to have thousands of people knocking down your door, wanting your attention, your time, wanting to work with you. And so there's like the distractions are also multiplied. So the way you engage with others and your resources and the world around you changes as you grow on this spiritual evolution path, right? So if that's just a little refresher for the chapters 1 through 3 of our warrior operating system curriculum here. If you missed the first 3 weeks of acceleration training, where is this? I encourage you to visit my YouTube channel. Look for Cody McKibben. And you can find those here. Chapter 1, the pit of poverty. Chapter 2, the peak of prosperity. Chapter 3, the principles of power. But so going forward, week by week, we will be unpacking these. Now I'm totally lost. Where's my control panel? We'll be unpacking these chapters as we march forward and teaching you the code. We live by a code. the core. That's a daily practice. Also a framework to think about all the areas of your life and kind of create and maintain a certain balance across the different realms of your existence, from your health and wellness, nutrition, fitness, to your relationships. So whether that's your spouse, husband, wife, your kids, other people that are central in your life, and even your spiritual growth and development, your spiritual practice, if you have something along those lines, and of course business and profits and your wealth, and financial world. So across all these realms, the core 4 is our daily practice that empowers you and allows you to build up power across all these areas and make the daily investments to keep your world in abundance and build towards prosperity. And so we have the code, we have the core. There's a tool called the stack, which is essentially, a very in-depth journaling tool and process. It's a set of different sequences, but if anytime you face like challenges and distressing emotions, negative emotions, or you're facing a decision, something that you feel like it's keeping you stuck, the stack is a journaling tool and a process that's going to take you on this journey where you can actually reframe your perspective, look at all sides of the story, and it helps you rewrite those limiting beliefs and find the most empowering stories that will propel you on your trajectory towards success. So the core, the stack, the next implementation tool is called the door. And this is really it's frankly, in many ways, those of you in the tech world or building startups, like you'll know Trello. Sorry, I almost forget the name because I haven't used it in so long because I use the door. So it's our productivity app where on a daily and weekly basis, you're tracking and prioritizing what are the most important needle moving actions and projects and milestones to reach your big, we call it impossible targets. And that plugs in with the game. So the bigger overall frameworks for how you plan, you got to strip back and look at the real, raw, relevant truth and the facts of where you are across all areas in body, being, balance, and business. So before you can even map out a path and a trajectory towards what you desire, you got to get real honest and truthful with yourself. And, it takes peeling back all the layers. But we've got a complete fact map system where you look at the facts of today, your foundations, and then we call it the impossible game. What are you striving towards in, 1 year to 18 months? How do you reverse engineer then to create those results across all areas? And so the warrior operating system, the code, the core, the stack, the door, the game is a holistic, comprehensive set of frameworks, tools, software, and principles to create, to build yourself out of poverty and scarcity. I have leveraged it to dig out of the abyss of PTSD, literally. If you haven't seen my past streams, you can go back, and I'm sure I'll share more as we roll through. But both from the sort of more spiritual or emotional, psychological side, and from the brass tack, getting it done, building your business side, the warrior operating system weaponizes you with the tools to build your way out of the pit towards the peak, to build your kingdom. So today we are going to take a look at chapter 4. And we're going to go to a short training video from my coach and mentor. This is not it. Sorry. A short 10-minute training from my coach, Garrett J. White, the creator. And come on, is this not going to... Why is that not going to... From my coach, Gary White, the founder and lead trainer at Wake Up Warrior headquarters in Southern California, Dana Point. And he's going to share with us what is the path of production that gets you from the pit of poverty towards the peak of prosperity in your journey. And then, so as you watch this, take some notes for yourself. What are your biggest insights and takeaways? What are any revelations this brings about for you? How could you apply what you're learning here in your life, your business, and your family? We're going to come back, and then I'll give you some of my perspective on what we hear and learn here today. And I'll map some of this out on the whiteboard and share my examples with you guys. And we'll do our best to keep it short and sweet today. But enjoy this 10-minute training, and then we'll return.
There are chapter 4, the path of production. There are 4 stages to moving from the pit to the peak. These 4 stages are simple. 4 stages took us over a decade to uncover. They begin with stage number 1, stage of waking up. See, no matter how much you are living, and no matter how much you have done, no matter how far you have climbed, and no matter how much you have created, in contrast to what is available to you next, you are actually asleep. You are awake to everything from the past, but asleep to everything possible in the future. And so stage 1 demands an awakening. Stage 1 is waking up. Waking up and recognizing that the life that you currently living either is something you do not desire or is something that you do desire, but you recognize that there is more. More to be felt, more to be experienced, more to be expressed, and more of the exposure and expansion of your soul. Waking up is a required opportunity. It either comes by decision or it comes by default. You either design your wake-ups or you default to your wake-ups. But either way, there is no standing still. This idea of retirement is a lie. There is no time that you will simply settle in and be done. There is no settling in and being done. There is the pursuit of the next level of your experience in this life. Next level in your body, next level in being in relationship with God, next level in balance in relationship with your wife or husband and children, next level in your relationship with money and business and creation of wealth. An infinite number of opportunities constantly opening themselves up to you. But this requires a waking up to the truth of where you are and waking up to the truth of what could be next. This is hard though, because when things are really shitty, it's easy to say, I don't like this shitty, scarce situation I'm in. I must have more. And letting go of what is shitty is simple. What is not simple is having a life that is very good, possibly even great, but recognizing that unless you choose to move and create and go again, what is great or what is new will become numb. And what is numb will become normal. And what is normal inside of that numbness will become nothing more than your next pit. Yes, it's a wild game, this game called life, because what we used to pursue and look forward to became our normal. And in our normalcy, we look around at something that once set us free is now our captivity. Something that we desired in our body, we got it and we became it. And then it became normal. And then we became numb. Something in our marriage and sex and intimacy, we pursued it and we got it. And then it became normal. And then it became numb. Something inside of our relationship with God and our communion was new and fresh and exciting. And then it became normal. And then it became numb. Something in our money, in our business, in our pursuits, something so exciting. And we obtained it. And then it became normal. And then it became numb. And in that numbness, we have a decision. Will I wake up again? Or will I be compelled by God in the universe by the stripping away of what I have in order to wake me up to the next place? Because in our numbness, sedation begins. And in our sedation, our own incarceration begins. Stage number 2, take a knee. Take a knee to God and the truth of who you are, but more than that, the truth of what God is calling you to be next. See, this game of eternity is now. Eternity is not some place after your physical body dies. It is not some place that existed before you came to this place with the body and opened your eyes. Eternity is now and then and then. But your eternity is in this moment. Your soul is living out its experience in this body now. And so when we wake up to this new possibility of revealing more of our soul, not just in the pursuit of having money, but in who you must become to obtain it. Not just the pursuit of more sex and connection and marriage, but in the pursuit of who you must become in order to have it. Not in the pursuit of a deeper relationship with your children just because, but because of who you must become in order to have it. Not in the pursuit of a new body that is bigger, faster, fitter, stronger, healthier, more energized because you can, but because in order to find out who you must become in order to have it. See, all of this pursuit and waking up demands you take a knee. You take a knee to what God is showing you, not to what the world is telling you. Otherwise, you will constantly find yourself in a place where people say, why? Why do you have to have more? Why do you have to pursue more? Why do you always have to keep going? Why can't you just sit here and be normal and become numb and sedate with the rest of us? Stage 2 opens up stage 3. Have it all. Having it all is an eternal experience too. Because what was having it all 10 years ago for you would be living in the pit of poverty today. And what having it all today is for you will be living in the pit of poverty 10 years from now. This game of having it all is fleeting. It's like oxygen. I breathe it in, I have it, and I'm alive. I breathe it out. But I must breathe it in again and then breathe it out to continue to live. If I choose to stop breathing, I die. Period. If my body stops operating, like causing me to sneeze and doing what it does to care for me, I die. And so having it all is a constantly moving horizon. It is a game of opening up new and new and new possibilities. Hold on. Just keep running with it. We're good. This is the beauty of this thing that we've been given by God. It just adjusts and does what it needs to take care of us. It evolves. It moves. And this is what having it all does. Once you obtain a new peak of prosperity, that peak of prosperity will become normal. And when it becomes normal, it will begin to feel numb. And in that place, a new sense of purpose to rise to another peak will require you to go to a new pit in order to rise to a new peak in your body, your being, your balance, in your business. And as you pursue this next level of having it all, and as you get to this new peak of having it all, as it begins to be numb, you'll recognize that God is calling you forward to stage 4, which is to be free. To be free requires you to give it all back and start over again at wake up. Freedom is in surrender. Freedom is in submission. Freedom is in the willingness to stand in a place of power by letting it all go back to Him. It's in a non-attached state to the things that you have and to the world that you created, and a willingness to let it all go and pursue the next level of your soul's expression. This pursuit of freedom, this path of letting go, is a place that you will feel more free than you've ever felt before. And so when a man or woman finds themselves on the peak of prosperity, having it all, but finds themselves hollow and ready to fall, in that place, it's time to be free and let it all go again. Once you begin to see this path of power, you will recognize that there will never be a time that you will not pursue it again. This idea of prosperity is a never-ending, eternal experience. And when you see this, and when you recognize this, you begin to pursue it with vicious obsession. The game of having it all is a game of gods. It is a game of expression. It is a game of creation. It is a game of all games. And the Warrior's Way tools were given to us to support us in this ever perpetual, eternal game of expansion to the next level of freedom upon freedom upon freedom.
So you have to crawl before you can walk. You have to walk before you can run, right? If you look at life as metaphorically as a series of summits, mountains, peaks, that you are committed to conquering, summiting, in a sense, like say, you start with a little bunny hill when you're a child, right? You build up your strength and you can climb something more daunting, but you reach to climb a mountain. My son keeps talking to me about he wants to climb a mountain together. So we're planning for this right now. Last time I was here in the Philippines, I summited 3 relatively small mountains. One of them with my wife. Actually, she just returned and did that same hike with her girlfriends last week. Anyhow, but as a metaphor that applies to life, you think, it entails a change in your perspective, right? Once you reach the top of any hill or mountain, it gives you a whole new perspective of the lay of the land around you. You can see much further than you obviously could in the valley at the bottom of the mountain. And each new greater peak, tests you more, but it also cultivates your skills and abilities. Got mosquitoes running around in here with me, dang it. And so, maybe one day you find yourself looking up at Everest, metaphorically speaking again, but life is this, you could call it a roller coaster. It has its ups and downs. It has its peaks and valleys. It has peak moments and it has pit moments. We all find ourselves in low places or get stuck in a rut. And so, as we reviewed in the last chapter, the principles of power are really it's the beliefs, the mindsets, the truths that you must accept in order to bridge the gap across that valley, that that vast pit. If you want to accelerate your journey from where you are to the next peak that you've set your sights on, the principles of power fortify that bridge between poverty and prosperity. But, you know, as far as concrete production, creating real results in your life, whether that's, you know, increasing your profits, building a business, launching a new service, product, etc., whether it's building up your marriage, your relationship with your children, or building yourself up, you know, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, from within, doing the inner work, whatever you're building, this path of production, this is the tangible steps for how you know, go on this process of really it's a spiritual growth process we're talking about. What Garrett described there, it is the hero's journey. And it's a 4-stage cyclical journey that constantly evolves and facilitates, it enables your growth. It's going to require you to go into introspection and do that inner work and really look at the truth of who you are and what matters to you. And eventually it guides you on this ascending journey of enlightenment. So let me pull up the whiteboard again. Where is this? Here we go. So yeah, looking at what we had here from the last few weeks. Oh, I can have myself on here too. Here we go. Yeah, so how do we go from this pit of poverty down here up towards the peak? And I'm sorry, I have a lot of chicken scratch on here at this point, but yeah, this path of production, which is what we're looking at today, he's given us 4 stages, right? So these are sort of the steps required on the journey upwards out of poverty, out of scarcity, out of lack, out of the pit, out of, if you find yourself in a spiritual abyss, if you find yourself in a deep, dark hole dealing with trauma, this path is the evolution of your soul as God intended it, from the pit to the peak. Oh, and it's a cycle. It's something we do actually over and over and over again. It's not a one-time thing. It's not like you're born in the pit and you die on the peak. You know, I mean, different people have different experiences as they go through life, of course. Some people experience deeper pits or higher peaks, but we all experience pits and peaks. And, you know, strangely enough, I mean, you cannot stay on that peak forever. If you're at a high point in your life, in any of the different realms of life, you cannot, as he says, there's no such thing really as retirement, but you can't just camp out there eternally. It doesn't work that way. And God, if you believe in something bigger, I mean, use the label that works for you, okay? No dogma here. But I believe that the transcendent or the divine, I mean, I believe the whole reason we're here is that this is a spiritual classroom, and that our purpose, really deep underneath it all, is to grow eternally, eternal expansion. So that's why this is a commitment to the long-term path of prosperity, of producing prosperity across all realms of your life, right? So let's embark on this transformative journey together that leads to the heights of prosperity. Yes? Now I'll just real quick, I will, because he's already given them to you. Stage 1 is to wake up. Right? And he said one interesting thing I'd like to share here. You know, what? So again, you're born, you got to learn first to crawl. Actually, before you can even crawl, babies have to have tummy time and learn how to like turn over and how to even like do the very basics of carrying their own body weight and pushing themselves up on their legs and feet, or their hands and feet. I'm on number 2. I'm a father. I got 2 kids, so I've watched it firsthand. But you got to learn to crawl first, and then you gradually. Then they test themselves for weeks and months. They fall a few times. They fail, but they don't give up. Eventually they learn to balance on their own 2 feet, and they stand up and they start to take their first couple steps. And at first it's just balancing and like not falling over. And can you, take even 1 or 2 steps, right? And then maybe a week or 2 later, finally they start to walk. So you start to develop that skill. And then gradually you develop your ability to run, right? And so there's a sequence. And in life, in the broader picture, like that's how it is. You learn to crawl, you learn to walk, you learn to run, you learn to soar. If you stick with it, you don't give up. But so in any realm of life, you master these new abilities, these new skills. You learn new things, and you obtain new things, whether it's abilities or resources or experiences, right? But in any area of life, if it's something you have, something you're able to do, the type of lifestyle you create for you and your family, right? You encounter things that are new. You create things that are new for yourself. And at first they're like, oh, this is fucking amazing, right? Like, this is really, if it's new, novelty is huge for human beings. I mean, novelty, that's why we're addicted to our phones, right? Because you keep encountering new things and it's exciting and it gives you that dopamine hit, right? So at first, a new lifestyle, a new job, new amounts of income, at first it's amazing, right? But with time, what happens? It becomes normal. Quote unquote, you get used to it, right? So with time, somewhat sadly, but it's the nature of life in a human body, like those exciting new things, sometimes it doesn't take very long and it becomes normal. Like, let me give you an example, right? My wife and I, we found this great health club nearby, and it's really close. It's about a 5-minute drive, and I still love it. But at first, when it was brand new, it was like, wow, this is astounding. It's just gorgeous. It's right on the cliffside on, ocean view. I usually have the place almost entirely to myself when I go there. It feels like it's kind of like a little secret spot. So I'm not going to even tell you where it is. But, lovely pool. I mean, it's seawater pools. So, saltwater pool rather. The staff is really great. I think it's a 5-star resort and spa. And, so I go there typically 3 times a week, but it's beautiful. It's drop dead gorgeous. It's like mouth on the floor, right? But to be honest, after several weeks, after the first couple months working out there, it's become normal already. Like, it doesn't have that same pop, right, as the first time or two. Nothing ever does. So point being, this happens across the board. Things are new, and then they become normal. And then, as he said, eventually, if you don't mix it up, things become numb, right? So this isn't fun, but this is just the facts. This is reality. Human experience. We go from things are new, they become normal with time and exposure, and then they become numb. And before I won't go too deep, but one area I really want you to think about that is relationships. I'll probably revisit this a little later, but I've had relationship troubles big time in recent months. And that's actually not a new problem. It's a cycle. But, you know, in your relationship, when you meet someone new, you go through that puppy dog phase, right? Lust is a powerful thing, but then that person becomes normal, and you have to figure out, do you actually have the more deep-seated, genuine love, which is not the same thing as lust. It's not exciting. It's not maybe even sexy, right? And if you're not careful, if you don't intentionally grow yourself and your relationship in certain ways, it becomes numb. You start to take each other for granted, right? So, you know, this applies in all areas, but you as you go through the course of your life, either whether you do it intentionally by design or by default, eventually you're going to wake up. You're going to wake up and recognize the truth of where you are, the truth of how you got yourself in whatever situation you're in, and you'll find yourself on this path that begins a certain type of awakening to the fact that there's things around you that you're not happy with. You know, they don't quite reach your standards and expectations, and things have become numb in different areas depending on you and your life. But this first stage of that awakening process on the journey towards increasing abundance and ultimately towards prosperity, a lot of people settle, and they do their best to not wake up, you know, to, oh, I'm going to keep my eyes closed as best as I can for as long as I can to that, because this path demands that you get brutally honest with yourself, and that you take an unflinching look in the mirror at the ugly facts, oftentimes, to really deeply understand your real current reality of where you are. So waking up is often a moment of reckoning. You know, you've got to acknowledge the choices you've made and mistakes you've made that led you to where you are. And you've got to acknowledge, I mean, you look at your strong areas, which that's the easy part, although it's important, and many people neglect doing that, like really taking a account, you know, taking stock of your skills and your strengths, abilities, things you've achieved. The harder part is, what have been your defeats, your mistakes, your failures. And it's okay, you know, like, you're human. We all have those things, but you've got to really acknowledge, your circumstances, your victories and your defeats, and take stock of your life without any filters or facades, you know, no sugarcoating, because to really, you've got to really understand where you stand, where you're at, so that you can gain clarity about what it's going to take to get where you want to go. So grounding yourself in the reality of the facts, getting that clarity across all areas of your life, this is the foundation upon which you can actually, you know, begin to build, you know, every subsequent step after this. It depends on getting that strong, rock solid foundation of the truth. And that activates a new level of power that when you were unconscious was previously not attainable, right? So I actually want to, I'll list these out. The first stage is wake up, which I've kind of just explained. And then, as he says, stage 2 is to take a knee. And he explained in his words, and we'll unpack that. Stage 3 is, you know, after submitting yourself in a certain way to the truth, at least, submitting yourself to the truth, the facts of reality, not fantasy, not pretend, but of reality. That is a really necessary step that allows you to begin to build. And so ultimately you can build and have it all And the final stage is to become free. So those are the 4 stages, all right, just to give you the framework real quick. Wake up, take a knee, have it all, be free. But it's a cyclical journey, all right? It's not a linear trajectory exactly. It's a cyclical journey. And so we've looked at it, you know, if you haven't seen, then go back, check my YouTube, and there's chapters 1 through 3 already where we've already sort of broken down, you know, there's peak after peak after peak. And ideally, if you structure your life right and you know how to play the game, then you're able to challenge yourself more and more. You understand that just because there is a dip or a temporary pit, like it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean the ultimate end of your life and everything's going to crumble forever. You start to accept these pits and peaks, and our aim really is to keep pursuing new, bigger peaks, right? Bigger challenges and bigger targets, bigger goals across all areas of life. And so you start to build yourself up gradually. You've got to accept this kind of what's the word I want to find? There's life has its waves, you know, you got to surf. It's like climbing mountains in one sense, but you got to accept the ups and the downs. But when you play your cards right, you can ride that wave in such a way that you're on a gradually expanding, growing upward trajectory over time. Does that make sense? But I want to map it out in a slightly different way. I want to map it out along the terms of the hero's journey framework, right? From our old friend Joseph Campbell. So my board's getting pretty busy here, but so again, this can all apply in any area of life, right? But a lot of us, you will find yourself, you know, just humming along in a pretty, you find yourself comfortable, right? That new becomes normal, becomes numb, and we can become somewhat unconscious. Let's be real. And a lot of people don't want to dwell too deeply on spiritual matters at all, right? Or let alone looking at their mistakes or taking full responsibility and ownership for all areas of life. But this is like, let's call this the status quo. And it could be in any area, but it's your comfort zone. It's when you feel like you've got general mastery of something, but you know, you're not really challenging yourself. You may be kind of living, accepting some level of mediocrity from yourself, but you've got this stability at least, right? I mean, how many people, what's the word, kind of make a god out of stability almost, you know, put stability on the pedestal and prioritize that of all the things you could pursue. I mean, that's Western civilization, where I'm guilty of that, like desire for stability. But you find yourself in this general status quo, right? And eventually you're going to encounter something that we call a trigger. And forgive me, guys, for my poor handwriting. I'm sorry. But, you know, so along comes something. It may, where's my eraser? I think technically speaking, you know, there can be positive triggers actually, but we're going to focus primarily on a negative trigger because a lot of times something comes along and sideswipes you when you're in that somewhat status quo comfort zone, just kind of operating on autopilot sort of life, right? And you know, you may even feel to some degree like you're at the top of your game, whatever that is, like whether in your career or even in your fitness, like maybe you feel like you're performing pretty well. But if you're not always looking for new ways to grow and challenge yourself, then life eventually will come along with something that's going to trigger you and start to actually pull you down, you know, into some sense of panic, emergency. There's a problem, right? You start to lose that control you thought you had. And a lot of people, you know, at some point in your life, you're going to experience something, right? Some real major, a tragedy, loss, some real emergency that can bring you to your knees. And so on the hero's journey, you know, this is when it's called actually the call to adventure. And this is why a lot of people resist it, because it actually can feel like you're being pulled against your will if you're not aware of the cycle, the framework that I'm going to map out for you here. It can feel like you're being pulled into something uncomfortable, for sure. And sometimes it feels like so beyond your control, like you're forced almost against your will into a situation that is going to demand everything from you. It's going to put you in sort of almost a fight or flight mode, right? But this is, so I'll call that, yeah, CTA for call to adventure. Okay. The hero in any hero's journey story usually resists the call to adventure at first until something really forces them or calls them to the journey. But you have to give up a lot in order to go on this journey. And I'm going to map it out in a circle, but just right at the outset here, I want to clarify, like, you don't actually come to the same place, okay, but you come back to rebuilding your identity. And it's actually a winding, I would say, an upward spiral journey over time, okay? Because you go on this hero's journey cycle time and again, and it has these 4 stages that we're going to describe. But if you're playing the game optimally, if you're following the principles of power, you know, and if you are committed to really producing real results and increasing growth and expansion across your life, then you're coming back time and again as a bigger, better version of yourself. But this first stage, this wake up happens here. As you feel this sense almost of falling, you know, or loss, like things are falling away from you. You're losing things that matter to you, people that matter to you sometimes. And you actually, so this cycle is going to go all the way around, you know, but I want to show there's a division here where this is your area. Let's call that top half of the sphere. It's like your area of competence. It's your comfort zone. It's the known world. It's, you know, it's in career, you know, it's like, it's what you're good at, let's say, or it's a business you may have already built that's running smoothly and things are going well, but nothing lasts forever. And so eventually something is going to call you to the next adventure. If you don't embark on this journey by design, then life will force you to take this journey by default. Okay. Now, so you start to fall down into this unconscious, is what's down below, or the unknown. Now, in a lot of our stories, mythology, movies, you know, superhero stories, on the hero's journey, that looks like the underworld, you know, or an unknown world, like our hero gets pulled into a foreign land, or maybe even like another planet, you know, if you're looking at sci-fi, like the actual underworld, Hades, hell. But let's just use the terms known and unknown, okay? Because as a psychological tool, this really does apply to your life. Okay, so you wake up when you start to realize that you're in over your head, or you're pulled, you're drawn out of that comfort zone and the realm where you were in the status quo. You get knocked off your high horse. Whatever it is, you start to sort of descend into, it feels like a descending into the unknown. You're uncomfortable. You things start to jump out at you that may look scary, terrifying even at first. You can go back and listen to some of my stories about the trauma and the PTSD experience I've gone through. But this is where you start to go through a road of trials. On your path down, 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 down into the unknown. And so that can reflect very differently depending what area of life we're looking at, whether it's spiritual, psychological, whether it's your fitness, your body, health issues. I mean, cancer is a hero's journey into the depths of the unknown, believe me. Not knowing if you will make it through and come out on the other side. You often do almost have to stare yourself in the mirror in the depths here and stare even your mortality, like you have to confront your own mortality sometimes. But down here, eventually you hit a point at the lowest point. That's what we call the pit or the abyss. When I encountered just pure evil, child trafficking, satanic abuse, sort of horror, I called it the abyss. I got stuck down there in the abyss for probably 3 years. So it can look like the depths of hell, a fiery furnace maybe. Or maybe, the cycle you're on may not be that deep. But either way, you're going to hit a low point, and we'll call that the pit, okay? And you're going to feel stuck. You're going to feel like you don't have any answers, like you don't even know what direction to go. You feel lost. This is what you start to drift, and life spirals out of control as you go down, and you often feel like a victim on this downward part of the journey, okay? This has big victim energy, sadly. But we all experience seasons of this. And so eventually, you find yourself down there at the low point, right? And this is where I would actually say that stage 2 kicks in from Garrett's framework, which is you must actually find the strength inside of you to submit. Submit to what? I won't tell you who or what to submit to. That's for you to decide and to discover, because it's different for each of us. But to me, it took submission to God. And certainly it takes a submission to the truth. So this is where, stage 1 is wake up. Stage 2 is to take a knee. You must at least accept, humble yourself and surrender to life itself. But you've got to humble yourself enough to accept responsibility for any mistakes you've made that got you to where you find yourself down there in that pit. You've got to admit to yourself and to others that you don't have all the answers. Nobody does. That you need to accept the fact that you will have to seek help from others. And I think, from at some level, from a spiritual force bigger than us. So you've got to you submit to the truth. The real raw facts of where you are, of who you are, and the reality of what you actually want, not what you may have been telling people that you want, not what you thought you want, but what really matters to you. What do you truly desire? Because a lot of times there's a mismatch in ourselves. We're lying to ourselves about what we want, what we're aiming at, and what we're after in life. So that's the stage. You take a knee to, whether it's to God for you, or at least to the truth. So that you have to stop fucking lying. That's the code. Step 1, stop lying, or at least, so tell the truth, or at least stop lying, as Jordan Peterson says. And having kind of, taken off the horse blinders, or maybe have the scales fall from your eyes, but having awakened to this reality that you now find yourself in at the pit, the next step is required to humble yourself and to surrender to something, to the grand scheme of life, at least. Let's call it that. Let's call it the hero's journey, okay? But taking a knee symbolizes your connection either, to something transcendent, to the divine, and it's an admission that you need to seek guidance and strength. It's not about you being a weakling. It's not about your weakness, but it's about recognizing that there's a force much greater than yourself that can guide and support you in life. And in this humbling posture, whether you find yourself on your knees praying, like I have many times on my journey, or whether it's a little bit more metaphorical, but you've got to assume a humility posture, let's say, you also surrender to your inner truth, accepting who you are. Let's be honest, guys. There's at least a connection to your higher self, if nothing more. So some part of you've got to acknowledge your real desires and set the intention for your journey ahead. Because if you just keep drifting aimlessly through life and accepting the standard that others accept around you, you're taking what you're given by default, and that tends to entail a lot of drifting and mediocrity. So if you want to get out of that pit, if you find yourself in a pit, any kind of pit, spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, or if you just feel like you can't seem to figure out your business and make enough money to pay the bills, if it's just merely a pit of poverty financially, any pit you find yourself in, you need to create and set a clear intention. You need to be conscious about how you structure your life and how you prioritize tasks. And then you need to get out there and execute and produce real concrete results, rather than just, what do they say? Staying in the mire, like in the mud with the pigs, in the gutter. I mean, a lot of us, I've been guilty in the past of just, marinating there. So you need to take a moment of reflection, like more than a moment, maybe a season of reflecting on life. Maybe praying can help. This is a good book. Here it is. I dug it out. The Battle Plan for Prayer. But you've got to find commitment, devotion in yourself to climbing yourself back out and up the next peak. So that take a knee, that second stage is an acceptance of where you are. So there is a level of forgiveness, self-forgiveness, or even repentance for some of us, seeking divine forgiveness, but also calling, where is God calling you to go? Who are you called to become? What is your soul purpose? So it's like you are forgiven for the mistakes. We all make them. We all find ourselves in these low points. We all make we have huge failures at times, right? And we all end up in the pit at some time or another during the course of our lives. That's just called being human. So don't beat yourself up eternally for making mistakes. But who are you called to become next? And what does that growth really look like? And are you actually committed? Because being interested is not enough. It's not going to get you out of that pit. So you've got to call upon all your resources, likely even something beyond, something intangible. But finally, when you find that commitment, you start to devote yourself to the little steps, that are going to really build it. So it's building new habits, learning new skill sets, and it's really about the reps. It's about commitment, like no matter what, ruthless commitment to obtaining whatever you're after. It's about devotion. So talk about a devotional practice, whatever that looks like for you. It may entail prayer. It may entail Bible study. It may not. That's fine. But you've got to find yours. And I think even if it's business we're talking about, if you're building a business, that is a spiritual practice, and it should be a devotion. Otherwise, it's not going to succeed. And you're going to stay stuck in mediocrity and drowning in the pit. I promise you. But if you find that devotion and you commit yourself at any cost to building yourself from the inside out, you build yourself out of the pit. You implement the warrior operating system. For example, these frames and tools and strategies that I am going to be teaching you for the next several months to move every area of your life out of scarcity and into abundance, to break back through that barrier again. It takes time, and nothing happens overnight, and it's like line upon line. You start to rebuild yourself with this new understanding, this new acceptance of what is. You start to master your craft again, all over again. And so you begin to build your way back up towards stage 3, having it all. Okay? So that's when you begin to break back through into whatever you're working on and building, whatever your career, your business, your commitment in life. It's like, okay, now you're becoming a master of your craft again, right? So what was unconscious has become conscious. What was unknown to you, and in that deep, dark, scary journey, it becomes known. What was new becomes normal, becomes numb. But right, you rebuild yourself from the inside out, and so you can. That's how you create abundance in your life. It's through the habits and routines that you build, the skills and mindsets that you master. And it's through the things that you choose consciously to focus your attention on and your efforts. And it's about the repetition, and staying devoted towards building something meaningful, something of substance. That's how you build it all and have it all. And so you break back through to the higher stage of abundance, out of scarcity, up towards abundance here. And ultimately, there's still a journey of kind of getting clear again on who you really are. So you form a new identity there. You really create self-mastery at a new, higher level. And, you have this increasing clarity of what your purpose is. You may, like I have found, I feel a real tangible guidance, like almost a divine connection, right? But I know I'm almost being pulled on this journey towards something. I don't have the clearest idea of where it's leading me, but I know I have this increasing clarity about who I am, really deep down underneath it all, what I'm called to become, and that I am here. I have a spiritual mission in a sense, to create something with the little speck of time that I have on this planet. And so you become, you rebuild your clarity, your confidence, courage, and you're now poised to chase abundance across every sphere of your life, body, being, balance, and business. And the warrior's way, this operating system, it sure gives a powerful weaponized set of tools and structures that can accelerate that journey out of scarcity towards abundance. And when we say warrior, it's not about fighting or conflict or going to war per se. It's a war with yourself. It's about that daily, relentless devotion, that pursuit, almost a spiritual discipline, an unwavering commitment to establishing freedom for yourself. And so that requires, letting go of all that victim mentality that took you down to your knees and brought you to the depths of that pit. So on your way back up, you start to, rather than the victim mentality, you become the victor on your upward journey. Again, for a season. You reestablish self-mastery, and this eventually your routines, your habits, and developing and building out those positive beliefs, empowering beliefs, and new storylines, new narratives for yourself psychologically. That's what leads you back up to your fourth final stage at that culmination of having it all across all areas of life. You get all those areas kind of aligned, and there's a harmony across your life, across the different realms of body, being, balance, and business. Making sure that you're not neglecting anything. You're not neglecting your partner, you're not neglecting your kids, you're not neglecting the bills, you're not neglecting customers. And so every domain gradually, slowly but surely begins to thrive simultaneously across all four realms. That's what we call the core four. And finally, that takes you back to the top, of the mountain again. So not trigger here per se, but finally you reach a state of a certain type of freedom in your life. So stage 4 is really at the top of that cycle, which is be free again. And it's a reminder, what he said about, if you're really pursuing the eternal game of growth, as we're designed to, I believe, what seems like freedom, like total freedom maybe at one stage of your life, another 10 years later, you may look back and, that's still scarcity for you. So for example, right, like 10 years ago, let's say 15 years ago, freedom for me was probably even $1,000 a month, but $2,000 a month. If I could make $2,000 a month and have the freedom to, just live with a backpack on my back, a laptop, and travel perpetually, that was freedom to me. And it was very fulfilling for a season, a good long season, at least a decade of my life. But today I'm like, I've graduated a few levels in the game. I'm a father, I'm a husband. I am responsible for a lot of people, actually. And so, $2,000 a month doesn't cut it, and freedom looks very different. So what was freedom at one time in my life is still almost scarcity today. And so the things that you're after, the next peak, it's going to grow with time. It's going to evolve. It's going to change. It doesn't always mean bigger numbers, but it's going to change and grow as you evolve. But for a time, you can experience freedom when you have built it all across your health and fitness, your spiritual and psychological world, your inner world, your relationships, your family, and your business or your career, in the realm of wealth. When you've built yourself up into abundance and even prosperity, maybe to the point where you're able to support others. You employ other people, you're serving customers, you're building a movement, let's say. You begin to attain a transcendent freedom that, especially as you recognize the fleeting nature of the material things. I mean, so it reflects in material wealth as you build yourself up, who you are. It's about being more so you can do more, so that you can ultimately have more. So the more you grow, the more you build yourself up spiritually from the inside, the more you're able to achieve and produce. And the more you create, the more abundance around you, the more you serve others, right? And so that is what leads towards genuine prosperity, not just for you, but everyone around you benefits. But you also realize and accept that it's this endless sort of cyclical journey. You can't take it with you. We all know that ultimately. You don't get to take it with you when you die, when you leave this place, this physical realm. You may appreciate that inner development of your soul may stick with you, but certainly isn't coming with you, and the material abundance isn't coming with you. The cars, the houses, the beach house, and even our relationships, sadly, probably are, it's not going to look the same if there is some next level of existence in the hereafter. But you realize as time goes on, you're going to have to let go of it all. And life will force you to let go of what has become, what you've clung on to for too long, and it's become status quo, or it's your comfort, or it's if it's become numb, you take things for granted. Life washes away the old to make room for the new. That's how the world works. That's the universe we live in. So when you start to understand that transient nature of your worldly possessions and your achievements, you know that you're on once a man has, or woman, but so many of the guys I've worked with, you build an empire and it gets, it burnt down or taken away from you in some sense. If you recommit and you build the next great thing, that's when you learn for real. Like, okay, even if I'm brought to my knees and everything is taken from me, I understand this journey here that I've mapped out now. I understand it's this ever-evolving, revolving evolution of the soul. This is the adventure that I'm on. So once you see the map, I hope there's great value in this. It's just a question of, do you see it? I mean, men pay $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 to understand these principles, really, on their entrepreneurial journey, at least. And as you understand this, at the top of the game, that culmination, that crowning achievement, when you really, really see it for what it is when you can surrender it all. You surrender the physical, material trappings, I guess, of your work, realizing that it's gonna depart from you eventually, one way or the other. You give it all back to the divine, with gratitude, with humility, and an understanding of life's cyclical nature here. But you start to have a real trust and a faith in the process, the journey of life, knowing that when you give it back, your hero's journey starts anew all over again. And it's like Jordan Peterson says, you burn off the dead wood, you give away what you don't even need anymore most of the times, or what's not working for you. You give to others, maybe, you build, you share, and you gift it to those who need it more than you. or you at least allow it to be cleansed from your life. Because if you hang on to it too long, I know through personal experience, God sent a great flood literally through my front yard and through my office and washed it all away. I mean, some of the ways this is manifested in my life have almost been comical, like definitely like the movies. But the great flood will come for you too, because it's always symbolically, mythologically, that's how this world works. Time washes away your past achievements. And so if you can surrender that willingly and trust the process, it takes you back to that first awakening stage, the wake up here all over again. But this time at a new, higher, more advanced level of the game. And so you have grown spiritually, you've become bigger and better, more weaponized. You have matured, you are wiser. And as long as you commit to this never-ending journey, at least until the day you die, and I think maybe beyond, but if you are devoted to this spiritual path, really, let's not beat around the bush. That's what this is. It's what Joseph Campbell pointed us to. It's what Carl Jung pointed us to. It's what Jesus Christ points us to. It's what Garrett is pointing us to. It's this cycle right here. This is the hero's journey. So if you can embrace and live in a devotional practice, almost like a devotional commitment to this process of eternal expansion, then you can kind of keep coming back as this bigger, better, iterative, growing, evolving version of you. That's how you become your best self. That's how you rise from who you are today towards your highest self. That's how you manifest the kingdom here on earth. That's how we bring heaven from whatever transcendent realm it's in. That's why Christ said, my kingdom is not of this world, but the kingdom is in you. The kingdom of heaven is in you. It's in you. So in closing, here you go. This is the path of production. What's the path of production? Well, it's to go on your hero's journey. And I suggest really that so it's not a linear trajectory. It's not an A to B line. We all know that, but it's a cyclical journey of growth, introspection, and enlightenment. It's a rite of passage that you go on. Whether you want to or not, you're going to be forced. You're going to be dragged down into those depths at some point. And the longer you resist it, actually, the more painful your pit or your abyss may be. I think that's why God pulled me so deep into certain realms of hell in 2017. And I looked Satan in the eyes in a way, in a real sense. But I guess I needed to see evil, and I needed to be scared to death almost in order to rise. What did Jung say? Any tree, it's like your roots must reach down to the depths of hell in order for the tree's branches to grow up to the heights of heaven. Now, but this hero's journey is written into the world, into our stories, and into our lives. It's wild, you guys, but it's true. It's written in the fucking stars. If you want to go on a trip one day, but it's a testament to the fact that the pursuit of prosperity is not an end destination, but it's this continuous endeavor, and it's this commitment and devotion through the cycles of life, through the cycles and seasons of your roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship, the ups and downs of your career, your wealth, the ups and downs in your marriage or your relationships. We have these stormy seas at times, and you got to learn to ride the waves. But if you embrace this path of production, it not only bridges the gap between that poverty, that pit, and towards prosperity, but it also ensures that you, even though you will face many countless never-ending trials and painful situations and pit experiences, low moments, it ensures at least as you traverse that path through life that you will do it with purpose and passion and an unwavering driving commitment towards participating and creating something bigger and meaningful here in this life, something that stands a chance at outlasting you, outliving you. So we're talking about building a real legacy in some sense. So this is the path of production, okay? Wake up, take a knee, have it all, be free. These are the stages, and it's a cycle. You go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and then you've got to give it all up and almost submit yourself and sacrifice some of that and burn off the dead wood so you can become the next version of yourself. So here I am, Cody version 4.0, I'll say, because I just turned 40. And at this stage of my life, I'm just grateful to have these tools, these frameworks and strategies, the software and the wisdom and principles that I have invested time, energy, and devotion to, and to integrating them in my life, in myself, in my business, teaching them with my teams. And it's giving me the wisdom to even instill in my children at this stage. But I know now, you once you understand this map, you can begin to identify, even in life's lowest, most painful moments, at least you can start to identify, where am I here? So you can anticipate what's coming next. And you know that you're not going to be stuck even in the pit. You're not going to be stuck there forever unless you decide to fucking wallow in the pit, in the muck, in the mire, and just marinate there with the other miserable folks. I did that for a time. But then it comes time to pick yourself up and crown yourself the victor over your circumstances and do what is required to march the fuck out and rebuild yourself through your habits, routines, your mindset, your beliefs. So to follow this path of production, to create those big results, to reach that pinnacle of prosperity, to rebuild yourself from the inside out and unleash it upon the world, let it manifest in your surroundings. If you are on a mission to build something big, to expand the kingdom in yourself, in your life, in your business, the path of production, I suggest visit warrioros.com and find these tools, learn more about this operating system. Join us at the Hero Foundry in our accelerator if it seems like a fit for you. Check out kingscouncil.com if you are an elite player and you really want to live this at the highest level and join a small circle of entrepreneurial men living this at the highest level. But that's today's lesson, the path of production. Again, one last time, wake up, take a knee, have it all, be free. Please, you guys, I appreciate any feedback and all comments. Leave your perspective, in the comments below. Those of you in council and in the Foundry, I will see you early next week. Our small roundtable group is now shifted to Monday nights. So a couple of you guys, I hope to see Monday evening. And we can flesh this out even more or discuss how it applies to you. And look forward to a check-in from each of you fellas and see where you're at on your journey and how things are going with what you're building. But that's chapter 4, the path of production. And look forward to next week when we will be back with chapter 5, the pitch of power. Okay, so with that, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for watching the replay. Thanks. Leave your feedback. Really appreciate hearing your guys' thoughts and input. Let me know what you think. Let me know what insights, takeaways you had listening to this. And I hope some of you may explore warrioros.com and possibly join us at kingscouncil.com. But with this, let me go ahead and I will play you guys out with a short video. And we'll see you next week for chapter 5. Thank you for watching. Have a great week.
I had a dream once. I was in the cemetery of an old church, surrounded by the graves where great men of the past had been buried. And so all of a sudden, the graves started to open, and an armed king stood up. And another grave opened, and another armed king stood up. And this happened all around me. And these were very formidable figures, right? They were the great heroes of the past. And after a number of them appeared on the scene, they looked around and saw each other, and being warrior types, they immediately started to fight. The question is, what stops the great kings of the past from fighting? And I had a revelation. They all bowed down to the figure of Christ. And then I woke up and I thought, what in the world did that possibly mean? And then I understood it. If you have 20 kings, let's say, and you took the thing that was most king-like about each of them, and then you combined it into a single figure, then you'd get a single figure of transcendent heroism, of transcendent good. That figure of transcendent good is symbolized by the image of Christ. And the purpose of that image is so that even the tyrannical king has someone to bend his knee to.